Alright, boys and girls, welcome back to another MiCpopMillSerp ammo teardown. We have our calipers, we have our scale, and we have Teardown Mark II, Teardown Harder, and a plethora of military surplus ammo to take apart. So, let's see what's on the docket today, shall we? Well, boys and girls, I feel like I might be letting you down with this video because as easy as this stuff is to find, for me, you obviously can't go to your local gun shop and pick it up. They probably won't know where to find it. But as far as auction sites and some antique military websites that have been around since the 90s still carry this stuff for about $2 to $3 a round. I can't find any history on this stuff at all. I've been searching for the last half hour, 45 minutes, and even the wiki doesn't have any reference. I looked through the wiki's references for anything about this Nazi-produced 8x56mmr. And I'm at a loss. So I'm preface this video with, unfortunately this is not going to have a nice history lesson like the 6.5 Dutch ammo had. I can tell you that as far as the history goes with the 8x56, the Austro-Hungarian Empire leading up to World War I, this was originally the 8x50 round. It had a different bullet, it had a different case, similar Mannlicher feeding style. It went into a gun with a different action. It wasn't anything like the M9530 guns. It's more of a toggle lock than a spiral tooth / groove bolt system. A lot smoother because of that toggle system, but it was eventually formed into this in the 30s by the Austro-Hungarian Empire, by a couple other Southeast European countries, and then the early Nazi Party, as you can see here. I've only ever seen 1938 and 1939 on these boxes because, as many of us know, 1939 the Nazis invaded Poland, and that's when they finally had all the Kar-98Ks they needed to run their war machine. So you won't ever see anything other than 38, 39. You might find some 37, but I've never seen those. As far as this is, as far as the writing goes, 10 pieces, Stück, I think that's what pieces is. 8mm model of 30, that's when the Austro-Hungarian Empire made this cartridge their standard. Sharfe is sharp in German. I think that just means that it's the Spitzer bullet instead of the original round bullet. S-Patronen, Spitzer bullet. And ROTTW has some very interesting history. I'm going to get into that here in a minute. We're going to look over all the markings first, look at a couple of the different clips that I have. But first I want you guys to head over to the main channel, subscribe there, subscribe to our library.tv channels. These won't be on library.tv. I'm still going to try and get this channel monetized. As you guys know, if you've known the Mike Popakilo YouTube channel for a while, we've been having a hard time monetizing stuff, so there won't be any shooting on this channel. All of our military surplus month is going to be on library.tv and YouTube. So support us there. Check out the Streamlabs link, and definitely support us on Patreon for more military surplus stuff. Very exclusive Patreon stuff. But anyway, let's get into the marking, shall we? Almost left out the box presentation. I don't have any more ammo to show you guys, but these would typically come stacked, 2 clips in a box, just like that, one side by side. This little flap would be tucked in there, and this guy would sit right on top. So kind of interesting packaging. Of course, the tape would have been wrapped all the way around, just like that. And just a really normal cardboard box. It's not really anything special. I'm not taking that tape off to see if there's anything under that. And there's nothing in the bottom. I already checked the bottom, took the divider out. The only markings on the box are this guy, and I forgot to mention that this S is the exact same S they stamped on the top of the barrel of all the barrels that were proofed for this new Spitzer ammo. So as far as the clips go, I've seen some with an H and a circle, which I believe just is Hungary. You know, the country, not the gastrointestinal description. I've seen these Nazi eagles with the more aggressive feathers, whereas on the head stamp here, you can see the feathers on this are a little bit more staggered, a little more rounded. But this double eagle is something that I just found recently in another box. That is something that is new to me, and I'm going to take some time to flash a picture up on the screen right now and show you guys where all these come from. But I've only ever seen 1938 and 1939 manufacture, and I've only ever seen the H, the Nazi Eagle, and the Double Eagle. And I'm not going to insult your intelligence and read off all this stuff to you right off the bat. I'm just going to let you guys look at it. But very interesting. I've only found 3 of them. These clips are actually quite reliable compared to other Mannlicher clips. Some that come to mind are Carcanos. Carcanos are notorious for being garbage. But these clips work really well. They eject out of the gun when you press down on them. And here's another blueprint of the Mannlicher system and how it works. If you're interested in a teardown video, go ahead and go over to the Patreon. There's a teardown video of my previous M9530 rifle. It is now for sale because these Mannlicher guns are just so hard to upkeep and make ammo for. I do have a reloading guide on YouTube that was grandfathered in before all notorious Karen started banning reloading videos. So we do have one of those up over yonder. I will try and remember to link that in the upper right hand corner for you. But yeah, these were made all over Europe. Like I said, there are a number of different manufacturers that made them. We'll talk about the German one here in a minute. Let's look at the head stamp of this guy. You can see at the top there is the Roman numeral 8. That is the month of manufacture, and all of the ones I've ever looked at have a Roman numeral 8. So they must have made a lot in August of 38. Of course, the date stamp, 1938, and a nice little Nazi Eagle. You can see the case has a slight bevel to it, not quite as extreme as a 7.62 but 54R. It is a rimmed case, very simple rim case. Has kind of a double taper similar to 8mm Lebel. Go ahead and break out the calipers, see if we can get some inch readings here real quick. So instead of being a 323, these are like a 326, I think. 329. Yes, that makes more sense. 329. You can find 329 diameter bullets. It is very difficult. I had some that I got in the auction from Gunbroker that I purchased my rifle with. Finding dies is a little bit easier now. About 5 years ago, it was very hard to find dies. Get a quick measurement of the case here. 2.175, about 55.5 millimeters. Yep. And then overall length of the cartridge is about 76.25 millimeters, or about 3 inches. So there's all that data for you guys. The rim size, which I don't think you can convert any brass to be this. Rim size is about 5.5 or 14 millimeters. It's very interesting how sunken the primer is. It is very much set back in the case. It is a Berdan primer, so that's why it looks kind of fat compared to like this 308 is also Berdan. And then there is this reload that I have here of 308. You can definitely see the Berdan primers are a little bit fatter. This one is actually crimped in, so it looks kind of small. That's a big old Berdan primer. That's German MG3 machine gun ammo from SG Ammo, one of our sponsors. Previous sponsors, they haven't sent us anything anymore. I don't know if we're going to continue to have them as a sponsor. And then there's a reload of 308. So just a little comparison to 308. These are usually 147 grain. This monster, I think, is a 205 grain bullet out of a 20-inch barrel. We did some velocity testing. I think this is coming out at 2350 feet per second, which is a monster for 200 grain projectile. Which brings me to a little safety op-ed. Don't shoot these in the old 8x56 guns unless there's that S for Spitzer or Sharfe on the receiver. You should not be shooting this in your Mannlicher long rifles. Even if you have a long rifle that's marked S, I would not suggest shooting this stuff in it because it's probably coming out at like 2550 feet per second out of those 29-inch barrels. Just shoot them out of the carbines. There's less pressure because of the shorter barrel, just to be safe. Like I said, there is stuff to reload out there, and Privy Partisan makes this ammo today. So let's dig into some of the history now we've got all those markings taken care of. Alright, as far as the history goes, the only thing that we have is that little marking on the box that shows ROTTW, and that is representative of Pulverfabrik Rottweil, which is wonderfully in German on the wiki. So I'm going to see if I can't translate this through Google Translate, because I don't want to read German. Alright, we're going from German to English. The Rottweil Powder Factory was an important company in Rottweil, mainly producing cartridges for hunting and war purposes. The powder was also used in mining. It emerged in 1863 with the takeover by Max Dudenhofer. That's a very German name, Dudenhofer. From powder mill from the 15th century. That is pretty old. What is Geschichte mean? History, possibly? Yes, that is history. I am so smart. SMRT. Geschichte. Alright, history. Alright, from the 14th to the 16th century, there are several mentions of powder deliveries from Rottweil to Switzerland. Starting in 1384, wow, that's a long time. 1863, Max Dudenhofer entered the powder mill and married the daughter of the powder mill, Fleitz. The company became internationally important due to the low smoke powder called Rottweil Chemical Company, an invention of Dudenhofer's in 1887, which I think the prior year was when the smokeless powder came out in the Gendarmerie Armory, I think, in France. Prussia produced the powder consisting of nitrocellulose. It burns smokelessly and with almost no residue, and replaced the black powder in the shortest possible time. In 1890, employed 854 workers, produced 6,000 tons of powder, and had a balance sheet of 31 million marks. The company reached its peak of economic success after Dudenhofer's death in 1917, employed 2,226 people. The brown prismatic powder, invented by Dudenhofer, dominated the market for heavy guns and ship artillery for a long time. So that's a pretty cool little history there. Dudenhofer from the Rottweil Armory. Again, this is the only history I could find on this, and it's a German wiki, which is quite funny. Some other things I wanted to mention about the history. We have a couple of the stamps on the clips. We have a source from oldammo.com. So, the following from Josef Motz, Österreich. Jesus Christ. Österreichische. Okay, I'm putting that in translate because that's too long. You Germans and stacking your vowels is just absolutely insane. Oh, it just means Austrian. Österreichische. That's so silly. Österreichische. Wow, that's a good one. Österreichische. Very strange. Teardown, I think. So Austrian military cartridge. So Österreichische Patronen, the primary source of information on Austrian ammunition, was provided in a discussion on these clips in International Ammunition Association. So this is apparently from cartridgecollectors.org. Both AZF and Wollersdorf use the Habsburg Crowned Eagle as the head stamp, which is the third from, so it's the middle one on the top. But use their initials on the clips. After World War I, military production was undertaken by a series of designated state factories. The single-headed Republican Eagle and the double-headed corporate state eagle will use a symbol of state factory on both military cartridge stamps. So I imagine that is the Austrian double eagle. AZF is Artillerie Zeugungsfabrik. Zeugungsfabrik? Is that how you pronounce that? Artillerie Zeugungsfabrik. Vienna, which is in Hungary, or Austria. Which one? Vienna sausages. Austria. Austria is Hungary for sausages. So AZF is 1885 to 1902, which is top right. MF Munitionsfabrik Wollersdorf, which is Wiener Neustadt, 40 kilometers south of Vienna. So another Austrian manufacturer. Small arms ammunition production was moved there from AZF to 1902. So that's another Austrian one. Single-headed Republican Eagle used by Georg Roth's Lichtenwerth plant as state factory from 1926 to 1928. So these are all for the original 8x50. And then from 28 to 33 you have the AG, which is Patronenfabrik Lichtenwerth, formed when Roth Empire collapsed in 1928 and continued as state factory. Hürtenberger Patronenfabrik from 1933 to 34 bought Patronenfabrik Lichtenwerth in 1933 and took over the state factory. The double-headed corporate eagle is Patronenfabrik Hürtenberger, which Hürtenberger, what do I know that's Hürtenberger? That's very familiar. There's Hürtenberger Defense. Ah, Hürtenberger 308. That's what I remember. That's the only military surplus 308 you can find these days. It's Austrian, and it's not cheap. So that's probably from the same factory. And the Nazi Eagle is the Guslafwerk Patronenfabrik, 1938 to 1939, which is most common. Took over Hürtenberger following the Entschluss in March 1938, changed to German codes P635 in 1939 and AM from 1941 to 1945. GR monogram used by the Georg Roth plants in Vienna, Bratislava and Lichtenwerth. Is that Werth or Vorth? Lichtenwerth? Yeah, Lichtenwerth. On commercial ammunition eclipse, perhaps military production World War I. W is Manfred Weiss Chapel, Budapest, 1882 to 1930. AH is Alami Adyanag. Oh wow, that's a good one. I'm going to spell that one out for you. Hungarian, four-state factory, Budapest, in 1930. SB is Seller and Bellet. That's pretty cool. I want to see how you actually pronounce that in Deutsch, because I think it's Sellier and Belot.
Selja und Bellot.
Yeah, Belot. Prague, which Prague is Austrian? Question mark? Czech Republic. Definitely knew that. So let's pronounce that one in Czech, because Seller and Bellet still sells shit today.
Sellier a Bellot.
Yeah, Sellier et Belot. So yeah, I've never seen any of this stuff that isn't marked 1938 and 39. And from reading that, the double eagle head is Patronenfabrik Hürtenberger in 1938. So that was probably just mixed in with the Nazi stuff, just as different lots, because that's the only stuff that I have other than a one-off H that I bought in a lot on eBay. But these are the most common ones that I have, is that double Republican Eagle and then of course the Nazis. So Hürtenberger eventually got absorbed in 1938 from the Nazis, and that's when they started stamping them with the Nazi Eagles. So that's pretty neat. Let's go to your favorite part and the whole reason why we're here. Break out old Torsen, tear this stuff apart. Alright, there she be in all her glory for the last time. And the hi-ya! Hi-ya! Well, she decided to yeet herself out of there, so we're going to have to tear down another one. So yeah, the problem with doing this is usually this collet can grab onto some sort of undercut or lip, or usually with a non-rim cartridge like the 308 machine gun ammo. This collet can slip into it and actually grab onto that cartridge, grab into that rim. Don't really have that with a rim cartridge, so that's why we mucked up that first one, but thankfully we had another clip of this stuff. And if you can see there, it's probably bonded and crimped at the end, as well as has a nice little anneal ring. So we're gonna have to be a little bit more patient with this, and hopefully we can keep it in this time. I'm actually gonna tape over the top so it doesn't fly out again. See how we do. Alright, so I taped over the top of this one, just a little bit of extra insurance, hopefully keep that round in. There we go. So let's get that on the table and measure that powder charge, shall we? So if I had to venture to guess, this has probably got like 45 grains of powder to push a 200 plus grain pill that fast. And I've got some spillage, there's still some stuck in there. Go ahead and zero out our tray. Throw some of that in there. So we're going to be off by probably half a grain or so, but it'll be pretty close. You can see all the flakes that snuck around that cartridge, but I should be able to save quite a bit of it and hopefully not spill a bunch of this stuff everywhere. So there's the giant projectile. A lot of residual down the bottom. So I was pretty close. Probably had 44 grains of powder in it. Oh, we're still going here, boys and girls. Still stuff stuck in the bottom. So probably 44 and a half, 45 grains of powder. I was pretty close. Here's the stuff that got thrown all over the floor here. Flake nitrocellulose powder, pretty typical of the time of basically all military powders. Get a nice close-up of this stuff. Pretty typical, and here's both of those projectiles. The cannelures are angle cut, typical of the time, no vertical striations like a modern canneler will have. That's a 223 from RMR bullets. Just put that into perspective for you. Usually cannelers have those vertical cuts in them for a little extra grippage. But these seem to do pretty fine because they're pretty hard to pull out. I don't see a whole lot of sealant. You can see some remnants of it here at the base. That might be some. But open base, exposed lead. Doesn't have a stamp like the 6.5 Dutch ammo did. And that was pretty funny to find. But now we got two. We got a decent sample size for our weight measurement of the projectile. So let me go ahead and take this powder and put it back in the case. We might be able to save one of these. Take this guy back in here. Oh, I'd say 44 and a half, 45 grains of powder is probably right. And we'll put this back on here and measure the projectiles. Oh, come on. What are we doing with our lives here? There we go. Really? Okay, I'm just going to zero this out again. This is the first time that's ever happened. 207 grains. So pretty close to the 208 grain Nazi 8mm typical grain weight. That's 206. So like I said, I thought these were 205 grain projectiles, so kind of a big difference there. .207.5 versus .206. So not too bad, but those are definitely big honking cartridges, that is for sure. It reminds me of the 220 grain 8mm Labelle cartridges. So that's pretty neat. Yeah, Nazi stuff, pretty cool. Like I said, you can still find this stuff for $2, $3 around. It's uncommon. I wouldn't call it rare. Not like the 6.5 ammo we had. That is definitely rare. Definitely not readily available. You can't just buy this fresh off the boat in a crate like you could in the 80s, but it's still out there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like I said, go ahead and subscribe for more content. It's been a lot of fun making this stuff. I'm usually not much of a historian when it comes to this, but now that I can actually make content and do something productive with it instead of just doing it for my own selfish vices, it's actually a lot of fun. I enjoy sharing this information with you guys, all 200 of you that watch these videos. So once again, thanks for watching. Help us grow the channel, share it around. If you know someone who knows more about this stuff, bring them in the comments section. Might do a live stream with them, do an amended video, who knows. But sky's the limit with this stuff, and like I said, learning about it's a lot of fun. So once again, thanks for watching, and as always, don't ride outside home.